And gentlemen, this is Michael and Skylar from the Vol Fanatic Show, and we're gonna have a fantastic episode today. Got some exciting news today as we have a guest that is joining us today. We have Jay from the Religiously Kentucky podcast. We're going to be talking Tennessee, Kentucky as they play this Saturday on ESPN. Before we bring him on, Skylar, how you doing today, man?
Dude, we are doing fantastic. It's been a busy weekend for myself, but we're making it. Man, I got to be honest, pretty good week so far for our volunteers, man. Kind of scared me in the first half, but we'll get into that after our interview with Jay at Religiously. But before we do that, we do got to do our shout outs real quick. Who's your shout out of the week?
My shout out of the week. I don't know if you know him, but Chase Carden. He is a senior at Giles County High School. He was the kicker. He went to the Coles kicking camp out in Texas, and he is ranked the 93rd kicker in the class of 2024. He placed third in the competition down there at the Coles kicking camp. So representing Giles County well, and he's going to go. He's going to go some places when he gets to college. So shout out to Chase for that.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, kickers, one of the most important positions in the game that's very underrated.
Just ask Alabama.
I was more recently. What's the NFL kicker that was like 8 for 8 in game tying or game winning field goals, and then he missed the game tying or winning field goal in the playoffs? What?
Yeah, it was the Buffalo kicker. I can't remember his name.
Bass, Tyler Bass. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. So it just goes to show how quickly things can change for a kicker. So shout out to him, man. Keep grinding. Shout out of the week for me is going to be a guy that actually works with us. He's been very supportive for everything that I do and my family does. His name's Justin Williams. He's probably watching right now. So appreciate you, brother. Everything you do. He's the first to share. He's the first to tune in. He's the last to leave. Just everything about what he does, man, it's very special to me, and I want to make sure that he gets recognized for that. But dude, let's not waste any more time. Let's bring our guy Jay into the stream. What's going on, Jay?
Vol Fanatics, what is up? I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're pretty good, my man.
So Jay, man, you work with you're called Religiously Kentucky podcast.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, man.
Yeah, Kentucky fans, Kentucky basketball, and as of recently with Mark Stoops, Kentucky football. Kentucky sports is a religion to Kentucky fans. I'm sure you've seen the toxicness on any social media. They're just as passionate as Tennessee fans when it comes to fan bases. So yeah. So religiously, we eat, sleep, and drink, Kentucky sports. So
no, and that's what makes it so special in the SEC, because I feel like more teams than not are just as passionate about every team. And I know during football and basketball season, even baseball season, Kentucky and Tennessee, we butt heads all the time. But man, we're here. We're here just to learn more about you, about Kentucky basketball, because man, they're having quite a special season. A little bit of a rough week last week, but tell us a little bit about Kentucky basketball, what you're seeing, what your expectations were.
So I have an episode coming out Monday. We put an episode out every Monday, and this episode was named Harvey Dent, if you will. It was, the beautiful side of the offense, the explosiveness. Kentucky's putting up 92 points per game, probably the best offense in college basketball. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, it was the ugly side of Harvey Dent. Not so good. But I think they are, and that was just communication, lack of, and those kinds of things. We've seen spurts of it. The numbers were there of Kentucky being a good defensive team, but trusting players and communication has been the issue on the defensive side. So you see them putting together, and then you have Cal going ham in practice with these guys, until they get it. So I think we suffered a little bit there in these recent games. This last week games, we saw what happened in South Carolina. South Carolina mucked it up. It was very physical, and I think that surprised Kentucky, especially the younger players. They were like, what is this? And then you saw hero ball, if you will. Like, let me dance around a bit with this, and it just didn't work. We got away from that explosiveness of the offense, and then you saw a little bit of the defense trusting one another, and then the aggravation set in on the road at South Carolina, and it was what it was. It was a beatdown, and then Arkansas came. You saw defensive growth. You saw players doing some things. We were without Robert Dillingham, but Adu Thiero came back. So we're starting to see this team get both sides of the ball going, and we like it. But at the same time, it's painful to watch a team come together. So you're going to hear narratives from the big platforms, from the media, from the sports media. This is their internal
Well, they do so many quick reactions on game by game,
right?
So
yeah, and I saw your tweet. I believe it was this morning about somebody asked, is it an internal issue with all of this? And that's immediately what people go to. But one question that I have for you is, you talked about some of the defensive struggles that Kentucky has had early this year, but their offense has been really good. But the last two games offensively hadn't been as good. But you've seen the defense take a step up. I'm a guy that likes to take some of these negatives and turn them into a positive. And I think it kind of annoys Skylar a little bit, but it is what it is. How do you feel about that defense taking a step up, and how do you think that is going to how it's going to help Kentucky going forward once their offense gets back on track?
Well, as Kentucky fans, we talk Final Four every year. That's it's weird to me because it's like, well, if it's not a Final Four, it's a bust. It's like you can't have a good season if it's, and that's just totally crazy. But you want to see because the saying defense wins championships is a saying for a reason. Not only do you have to have a good offensive game, but you have to be good defensively. Now, we're going to see teams go into the half court. We're going to see these teams slow the ball down. And for a team that runs, you want to know that they can handle that. So these SEC tests are great, I think. Some Kentucky fans want to win every game by 20, by 30. It's just win a tough game, win a gritty game. I think the game with Tennessee coming up is going to be that, regardless that it's in Rupp Arena and everyone in the building will be eating soft serve ice cream, but you want to see these tests. It's hard to watch sometimes, but you want to see this. Can they adapt to it? And we saw at Arkansas they could, regardless of Arkansas being a dumpster fire. Now, you saw Kentucky defensively do some things. And a lot of people say, well, we got away from the offensive side of the ball. And we have, but we got the looks that we wanted. Shots were just not falling. We got all the looks we wanted. The shots were just not falling. And, some people get carried away. I get it. It's the passion. I understand. But also things have changed. Now you're playing conference play for one, and you're playing 2 games a week. That's hard to do.
It is, and especially on the road like that, because was the Carolina game on the road? I can't remember. Yes. Yeah, so that Carolina game on the road, and then you went to Arkansas and played them on the road as well. I mean, especially in conference play, it's hard to play on the road. I mean, Tennessee's one loss so far in conference was on the road to Mississippi State. Yeah. I mean, it's very hard this time of year to play in conference.
I'm sorry I didn't take my notes, but there is a record for top 10 opponents going to play on the road against non-ranked opponents, and the record is not good. Yeah, it's not. I think Kansas even lost this last week too. Yeah. So I think people are tending to forget, and I don't know if football is an issue with this, but like at the end of the day, it's basketball. Like there's no team that's going to go undefeated, or if they do, it's rare. I mean, it's a lot like baseball. Sometimes, man, the basket just has a lid on it, and a lot of times that tends to happen on the road. You don't practice on that court all the time. It's a different feel. It's a different look. And, I think a lot of fans, me included, you're like, man, how could you look so good against Alabama, but then we're down by 5 against Vanderbilt the very next game? And it's like, what are we doing? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's basketball. It's just all about consistency. With Kentucky, it's figuring out, all right, you had the offense. Now you're starting to pick it up on the defense. Put it all together, right?
Yeah. And it's the growth is hard to watch sometimes for fans. it's and now, like I said, we're playing 2 games a week. It's a lot different, especially in conference play. All these, even the worst play. And I'll say this because we say this as Kentucky fans, we want all the smoke, and I joke about it all the time. But we're everyone's Super Bowl, right? The worst team is going to hit bank at 8 o'clock at night. The banks will be open.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They're going to hit these shots. So you want to see that these young guys can say, "Hey, look, everyone wants to beat you," but that's true about everyone. Everyone wants to beat Tennessee. Everyone wants to beat Kentucky. Everyone wants to beat Mississippi. It doesn't matter. So you got to look at it like this. And a young team has to understand, hey, look, I know what the record is, 1-5, but best believe me, they're going to show up and play you. So, and so working on the defense, it's learning on the move. And sometimes that's hard. Now we're getting ready to play Tennessee. That's hard, especially as good as defense as Tennessee has. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Tennessee's hard in the regular season with Rick Barnes.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll find out.
Sometimes the postseason's a little, shaky, but
right.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think it will be rough at Rupp Arena for Tennessee.
Yes.
But at the same time, the defense is great. Now, Kentucky's offense
is good.
It's pretty explosive. And we have 5 guys averaging double-digit points. So we're very deep. I think that hurts Tennessee. But Tennessee, Dalton connect. We just hope that he doesn't hit a 3 and get fouled in 4-point play, and everybody's like, connect 4, hand out, connect 4 games, and it's a big thing now. He's a special player. You got to Zakai Ziegler's going to do Zakai Ziegler things. He's going to assist. He's going to be the facilitator, right? He's a special player. But as far as depth goes, I think Kentucky has the upper hand here. Defensively, can that high-powered offense do its thing against a great defensive team in Tennessee? I think Kentucky is getting over that hump. It could be another rock fight, slugfest, whatever the heads are saying these days. But I think it's going to be fun. I think being at home has the edge for both teams. Tennessee would at home. But it's gonna be a fun game. And if they decide to run, I think Kentucky comes out. If they decide to muck, go slow, half court, I think this could be Tennessee. It just depends on how they go. I know ESPN right now has Tennessee winning this game 60% to 40%. So it's yeah.
What do those guys know?
we don't pay attention to the matchup predictors. So
I make fun of these guys all the time. Like, oh yeah, okay, I know which way to go now. But I think it's going to be a great game, and I think it is a telltale about Kentucky at this point in the season. Or are they that? Can they get to that defensive team that we know they can be? Are they still that offensive juggernaut? But it's going to be fun. You better come. I know we're at home, but we better come to play, right? And I say we like I'm on the team.
Hey, we talk the same way all the time.
Right.
Before we get into talking about the actual matchup of it, another question that I have is how does having all these young guys on the team affect things? Because Kentucky is known for getting all these freshmen in. They're looking to be that one and done, go to the pros. How does that affect the team as far as getting as coming together as one unit is what I'm trying to say, and then getting everything together like offensive and defensively to make that run in March.
And to follow that, Kentucky's had to do that for quite some time. I mean, I feel like that's what coach there does.
Yeah. Coach Cal is very good at that.
Yeah.
Getting young people to buy into what he wants to do. It's hard to watch at times. It's hard to watch a South Carolina team beat Kentucky by 17. That's hard to watch. But I think and it's different year to year. Some groups, not so much. This group is special. Very high IQ players. They all like each other. They all like playing with each other. I think it's special. Now, you got to let bad habits go. And we've seen that on the defensive guy. Guy drives. All these guys want to come in to help instead of letting the big block the shot or, let the guy, back tap, whatever. they leave a wide open guy outside to shoot. And that's been a thing constantly. And that's what they're learning is to trust, to talk, communicate on defense. And hopefully we get there. We get to the Final Four, the promised land for Kentucky, because the last few years have been pretty bad. A lot of toxic in the fan base with the last few years.
I got a question for you because we just got a comment on stream. Do you know this guy right here? He said, "Do not let Jay talk too much. He will get himself thinking championship or bust."
Yeah. So this is my co-host.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, he's also on the show with me, Jaron Ruth. He's a Mississippi State fan.
Oh, fair enough.
He does all the teams with the SEC. I also have another guy, JD Hall, who we call the voice of reason. When we're all blah blah blah, he's the let me spout off some numbers for you, but that's the type of guy he is. But number wise, defensively, Kentucky, a lot of people saying we're horrible on defense, and like I said, it's communicating and trusting your, like I said, when a guy drives, three guys don't need to get that guy. Let the big do his job. You stay on your man, and that's what they're getting now. So we've seen spurts of it, and regardless if Arkansas is Arkansas, we still saw some things they did really good defensively, and it's growth, and we like it. Now, offensively, we're wondering what happened, but like I said, we got the looks we wanted. The shots weren't falling. It happens. Teams go through that.
It gets cold. But
and, I do also attest some of that to Arkansas, because Arkansas does play very good defense. They might not have a very good team this year, but they're always very good defensively. And I take part of Kentucky's poor shooting because of Arkansas's defense.
Yeah, and it definitely was. Like I said, though, they got their looks, but when you get a layup, you gotta put that in. I think they missed 6 or 7 layups. There was, you gotta put that in, but you feel like that pressure's coming. They had several blocks, so that's in your head, so I get that.
A lot of times basketball is such a matchup sport.
Yeah.
You could have the best 5 in the world, but if they've got one guy that's just 7'4" and blocking everything in the paint, you're gonna have to rely on the shooters at some point. And vice versa.
Adjust your shot, trying to do
exactly
craziness.
Exactly. So with that being said, let's get into the matchup of Tennessee versus Kentucky. Now, Kentucky, as we've mentioned, came off kind of a tough week, but this is kind of the time of the season where you're starting to see these teams lock in. You got about 12, 13 games left in the regular season, and Kentucky may be starting to find that other half of the puzzle that they need to get moving forward. Now, you mentioned that y'all have 5 guys all averaging more than 10 points a game. You got one of those guys shooting 50% from the field for the season. Just tell us a little bit about some of the players and who are the guys that you think is going to stand out for Kentucky against not just Tennessee, but also Florida.
So everybody wants to talk about Dalton Connect, Antonio Reeves.
Right.
Similar numbers of Reeves, just edging him out percent-wise from the 3, but they're neck and neck, like almost identical numbers. Very good players. That's going to be fun to watch. Antonio Reeves doesn't get the praise he deserves. He should. He's very, very good. And that's going to be a matchup that everybody's watching. Dalton Connect get his, and Antonio Reeves get his.
And Antonio Reeves is my favorite guy to watch on y'all's team. Just the way that he plays the game, it's outstanding.
He's a shooter, and he can take you on the dribble as well. So he's fun to watch. This matchup is crazy because you mentioned Kentucky has the 5 guys scoring, averaging double digits, but almost so does Tennessee in Dalton Connect, Adu, Ziegler, Jordan, Vescovi right there on the line. Vescovi is dangerous. We all know he's a shooter. He can shoot. With Dalton Connect, he might not have gotten so far this year more shots to shoot, but whatever that is. I think that might be maybe Kentucky's advantage is Connect shooting the ball more, because you get 30. Well, who's going to get the other points?
Well, I'll actually go ahead and interrupt you here for just a second. I think the
Yeah.
surprise guy for Tennessee, and somehow I hit the buzzer in like week 1 on this. Jonas Adu has kind of been that second guy.
Yep.
He's been the consistent guy for Tennessee, at least in the paint. You got obviously Vescovi, you've got Ziegler, you got Connect, but Jonas Adu's kind of been that guy that now, unfortunately, sometimes he gets himself in foul trouble. But he's actually been that second tier guy where you've got Connect scoring 25 plus, and you got Adu right there scoring about 17 points a game almost, at least in the last, 2 or 3 weeks. So he's been that second guy, but, I think defense is where he steps in more than anything.
Yeah. And that is the telltale for this game is, can Kentucky play with Tennessee's defense? The number 2 in defensive efficiency in college basketball. That's really good. So it's going to be hard. Offensive efficiency, I think Tennessee coming in at 19, Kentucky 9. Kentucky very explosive, and they can shoot. Now, if Kentucky is hitting shots, it could get away from Tennessee, and that Tennessee's focus, and they're playing mean defense. It could get away from Kentucky, and they could just run off with it. So it could go either way, because this is going to be a fun matchup. You name these guys against Kentucky guys. I think we found our center, because we have 3 7-footers, but 2 are stretch 7s, and 1 is a post 7. So we have so many lineups. We're so deep, and that's what I think takes Tennessee out. I don't know. And of course, I mean, as a Tennessee fan, you guys know I'm an optimistic person like you, Michael.
Put on the blue glasses, dude. That's why you're here, man.
Right. So I'm going to say we want the smoke. We will win, of course. And I'm known for this in my fan base is when Kentucky plays. I just can't predict a loss. Now we could talk about it in this, and this. Okay, maybe, but I can't tell you like in football, 12-0. I'm not going to predict the loss. That's why we play the games. Anything can happen. So I do know that anything can happen in this game, but I like Kentucky's chances because we are so deep. And I just don't know if Tennessee can keep gathering the waves of new, fresh bodies coming in. I don't know. Now, if they slow it down, for sure, because we saw that at South Carolina.
Yeah, and so we got your co-host here is commenting in. He looks at Kentucky's bigs versus Tennessee's bigs, and also can Kentucky's guard depth eliminate the defensive strength for Tennessee? And that's where I think Kentucky's got a little bit of advantage in this game is the big on big, because this is a concern that I have for Tennessee. Is you got Jonas Adu, he's been playing great as of late, but then where do you go behind him? We've got Tobe Awaka, who is right there at 6'10". But he has a tendency to foul a lot, and he hasn't played as good as I was expecting him to this year. And then the next guy you got who put up had some good minutes yesterday against Vanderbilt was JP Estrella, but he's just trying to get into the flow of things. So I think that's where Kentucky can take advantage of Tennessee a little bit in that game. And I think that's a struggle that Tennessee is going to have this year, as you've seen against teams like Purdue. They've got Zach Edey, a great big man down there. You got Hunter Dickinson with Kansas that took advantage of Tennessee because of their big man. And same thing with North Carolina. I forget their big man's name, but I know y'all played North Carolina as well, so you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where Tennessee has struggled this year is at the center position.
And, well, Kentucky struggling, I think Ziegler is key in this game because he can drive and he can facilitate. We know that defensively, Kentucky struggled because of trust and communication. So when he drives, 2 or 3 guys are going to try to get him, leaving Connect, leaving Vescovi, and whoever that shoots deep balls are very good, wide open. That concerns me. Now, can Kentucky be disciplined and let that guy stay on that guy and let a big deal with that? That's going to be something to watch. I think Ziegler is big time key in this game for Tennessee.
Gotta hope that he hits the shots. Let's talk about the game itself and what it means. I think this is very much one of the biggest swing games of the season for both teams.
Yeah.
You got Kentucky sitting at I believe, 5-2 in the SEC, 15-4 overall, and then you got Tennessee sitting there tied at, well, actually a half game back because they haven't played as many SEC games, but they're 5-1, 15-4 overall as well. I look at this game, and maybe it's because I watched some of the Vanderbilt game and I realized how quiet the whistle was, shockingly.
We won't get into that right now.
Do you expect, at least in the first half, that's all I got to see. Do you expect
I will say
this?
just real quick, South Carolina, they didn't call a foul on South Carolina the first 12 minutes of the game.
Exactly.
Are they that disciplined?
I mean,
no,
I don't believe
no team is.
Exactly.
Right.
I was like,
and
it's basketball.
That's y'all's next game. So
yeah, well, I appreciate that. I guess that's something we probably need to look out for. The media does. I mean, as much as the Cinderella story Dalton Connect is, the media does try to paint us as like some type of boxing match every time we play basketball. I don't necessarily understand that, but do you think that foul trouble could be an issue in this upcoming game against Kentucky and Tennessee for either side?
Not Kentucky because we're too deep. Like,
okay,
yeah, I mean, like we're just.
That's fair.
Guy after a guy. For Tennessee, I don't know their bench as well. Maybe for their guys that are scoring double digits or averaging double digits, you certainly don't want Connect in foul trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And talking for Tennessee, we normally play about 10 guys a game as well, but it's mostly the starting 5 plus 1 or 2 that come in. You got some of the other guys off the bench that they'll play 6-7 minutes, sometimes get 10. But I mean, definitely Kentucky's bench is a little bit deeper overall than Tennessee's is. And one guy that we hadn't even mentioned yet that is key for you guys off the bench is Reed Shepherd. I mean, he's an outstanding ball player defensively, and he's a knockdown jump shooter as well.
Now, definitely a great shooter, but struggles on defense. Now, he's a gambler, so he jumps, he's back tapper, behind you type of guy. He gets beat by every guy. So, I mean, it is what it is, but his IQ is so high, probably the highest on the team as far as like Trey Mitchell might be there, but he's experienced player. As a freshman, he probably has the highest IQ, but this whole team is high IQ players. DJ Wagner is a dog. He's going to the basket anytime he wants. So it's,
I can promise you Coach Cal is not going to be recruiting any guys that are not smart about the game of basketball. I mean, they're going to know exactly.
We've seen some things. I don't know.
Fair enough.
But it's going to be a great matchup. Like it matches up in its defense. I mean, I keep going back to this. I tell people say that defense wins championships for a reason, and Tennessee has a great defense. We'll see what Kentucky's offense can do with it, and we're deep, and we get the home whistle because we're going to give the refs the Rupp Arena ice cream before all this goes down. But
absolutely.
But the home crowd always gets the home cooking a little bit, so to speak. But it's going to be a fun game. I think Tennessee is dangerous, so it's going to be one of those games that goes the opposite way, and then there it goes the opposite way. It's like who doesn't get aggravated and in foul trouble or I'm getting fouled and they're not calling it type situation, aggravation,
Yeah, I think this is the biggest. I think being at Rupp Arena is the biggest variable out of anything. I think what that atmosphere brings to the game, especially knowing it's against Tennessee. I think that's going to be. I love the way this schedule matches up, though. Regardless of who wins this game, you got the season finale where you come back to our place, and that's how the regular season ends. So regardless who wins or losses, that result is going to tamper all the way to the rest of the season until the rematch right before the SEC tournament. So, but
also,
I guess
what gives Kentucky advantage in this game too is you guys will be coming off a game with South Carolina, win or lose. Very physical South Carolina team. They're gonna. I'm telling you guys, Tennessee fan base is going to be on social media, Twitter, going, "That was a foul. They didn't call that." Very physical game.
Well, I think people underestimate South Carolina's basketball team. I think
very good team, but
they're one of the most underrated.
And they're very physical.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, South Carolina's 5-2, 17-3 on the season.
Yeah.
I'm on record earlier this year on the podcast saying that if there's a dark horse team in the SEC that could win it all in the tournament, that's South Carolina this year.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I in no way, this is one of the toughest stretches for Tennessee basketball coming up with South Carolina, Kentucky. I mean, absolutely. And we've already had a gauntlet. I mean, we just played Alabama. And that's I know we beat them pretty badly, but that I think I don't know what was in our veins that night. I'll be honest.
Well, that was the TBA effect there at the Food City Center. I mean, we played them at home, and Alabama was still going through Armageddon from Nick Saban leaving. He had the ice and all that too. So everything just worked out for Tennessee.
20 players hitting the portal, everybody leaving. No, I got you. Yeah. But Jay, man, before you head off today, let the folks know where everybody can find you and follow you and subscribe to you.
All right. So the podcast is on all podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast, free podcast, social media, TikTok at Jay Hazze, JayHazzezky on all social medias, IG, Twitter, if we're still calling that. I mean, it is
Twitter. We call it Twitter on this show.
Right. So, yeah, just everywhere. And I got guys, Jaron Ruth, you see him in the comments. You can follow him. He's SEC. He writes for SEC Network, not SEC Network, but yeah, just great Mississippi State guy. Another fun follow, but Jaron _033 there. And Religiously Kentucky on Facebook, Religiously Kentucky on all social podcast platforms there.
Yeah. And before you head out, I do want to bring this comment back up because we're all a part of this network that we're still teasing it. We're not telling everybody what it is, but Ohio Podcast. Did you ever think there would be a day that a Buckeye would be sitting listening to a Wildcat and a Volunteer? That day has arrived. Well done, guys. Appreciate you tuning in, Eric. And we've also had Topper Talk has come in as well. So we're getting a lot of support.
The Harbaugh leaving thing.
Oh, dude, Ohio State is on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
With the recruiting class that they're bringing in from the portal on top of Harbaugh leaving Michigan. Now, I think Michigan hired the right guy. This is so off track, but I'm telling you right now, Ohio State is selling their soul for this upcoming season.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got the links right there. I was going to tell you, we're going to put your links in the comments after we get this thing posted. So, but
Ohio says you better believe we are on cloud 9. So
100%, man.
Jay, appreciate you joining us. Hopefully here in the future we can have a little bit more collaborations as well.
Baseball season.
Yeah,
we got baseball season come up, and then we still got another Tennessee-Kentucky game later in the year.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, Vol Fanatics, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, man. It's been fun. You think when you get invited to a Tennessee Vol Fanatic podcast, you're like,
what's up, little brother?
I don't know what's coming my way, but it's been a great conversation, guys, and I really enjoyed it, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming, man.
Appreciate you.
Take it easy. And there it is, Jay Hazze, Kentucky with Religiously Kentucky. What a fun interview. That was a first for us. So thank y'all for watching. Michael, am I wrong to feel like I like Kentucky a little bit more after having that interview with Jay Hazze? That was a cool dude, man.
I don't like Kentucky anymore. I just like Jay.
Fair enough. Yeah. Big game coming up. That is this Saturday. Now, because we go live every Sunday, we decided to go ahead and have that interview now for everybody to be looking out for. Thank you, Ohio Podcast. I appreciate you, my guy. Great job, guys. Sounding like seasoned vets. We are far from it. We are just fans trying to enjoy the game and talk ball. That is something that me and Michael started right before football season. We were texting each other after every game, it felt like. And I'm like, dude, we just need to, I think it was his idea, actually. He reached out to me on my TikTok and was like, we got to start talking ball and stream it. And I'm like, that's something I want to do.
I think what started it is, both of us were putting out schedule predictions for each team and started commenting on each other's. And then I sent you a DM. I was like, man, let's do this.
Let's do it. And we did it, and now it's taken off as much as it has. I mean, I think we're already over 220 followers, I believe, on Facebook. I think we just reached 190 on YouTube. We're going, and thanks to the help of the Ohio podcast joining, and we were able to collab with these other teams and other podcasts to bring you guys some top quality content. But we're not going to pretend that we're people that we're not. We're just fans trying to enjoy the game and talk about it. So without further ado, do you want to talk about some of the games this last week and how we got a couple of wins, big wins? It was a short week. Well, let me take that back. It was a long week, but it was only one game this week because both teams actually had a midweek bye week.
Yeah, and Tennessee owns Vanderbilt after this past week as well, which, I mean, we all knew that was going to happen, but Lady Vols
lined up. It was crazy how it lined up that Lady Vols and men's played Vanderbilt same weekend, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll start it off with the Lady Vols. They were actually playing as we ended last Sunday against Vanderbilt. Tennessee gets the win in the Food City Center, 73-64. Skylar, were you able to catch any highlights of this game? What are your thoughts?
I was not. Unfortunately, for folks that don't know, I work for a water restoration business. This was the weekend that all the thawing started happening from the big blizzard that we had. So didn't really get a chance to watch this game, but I've got to be honest, the outcome was very much expected. It looks like it was a little bit closer than we wanted it to be. I would have to assume we had another slow first start, which it does look like we did.
Game was tied at halftime, but a shout out to Vanderbilt though. This is the best women's season that Vanderbilt has had, the start to the season, in a long time.
Absolutely. But I mean, shout out to that. There's a guard on their team that had like nearly 20 points in the game. I mean, she was dang near unstoppable. What's her name?
I believe it's pronounced Iana Moore.
Iana Moore. Yeah, man. I mean, she was 3 of 4 from the free throw line. She was 7 of 13 in field goals. She hit 33% of her 3 points with 2 of 6. She basically played the whole game. She played 39 minutes, and rightfully so. I mean, that was their go-to gal, and she was draining them for pretty much anywhere at will. Kind of gave Tennessee a fit, but overall, man, what are your thoughts on the game? Was that kind of what you expected, or I don't know what's up with these first halves. I know it's tied at the half, but man, that's something our Lady Vols are going to have to really work on.
Yeah, for sure. But, maybe it's becoming an identity for them where, they go into halftime. Maybe that's Kelly Harper being really good at making halftime adjustments. But, we talked about it some last week. They've got to stop getting down as far as they are in the first half, which, we mentioned this game, it was tied at halftime. But, still, you got to be careful doing that because it will come back to bite you. But this game was a good bounce back game for Tennessee because they had lost the previous week to Texas A&M. So it was a good bounce back game. You had 4 players in double figures for Tennessee. I mean, Rakia Jackson had a double-double with 16 points, 10 rebounds. You had Jasmine Powell with 16 points, 8 assists. Jewel Spear with 12 points, and it's Tamari Key coming off the bench with 10. So it was a really good game overall for the Lady Vols. And it's good seeing a conference win, especially against a rival in Vanderbilt.
I was going to say it seemed like a very balanced offensive tack from Tennessee. I mean, you mentioned out the point totals for some of our players, but I'll tell you one is Darby coming off the bench, going 2 for 4 from the 3-point line and getting 8 points. I mean, that was big because really our 3-point shooting wasn't that great. I mean, the only other person to hit, I think, any threes was
Jewel Spear.
Jewel Spear, excuse me. And she went 2 of 5 from the 3-point line. So only 4 made threes from 2 players. We didn't really try to shoot it from 3. I will say that. Most of our players were 0 for 1. Powell was 0 for 2. And then Miss Wynn was 0 for 1 from the 3-point arc. But I don't know, man. We're shooting less than 30% from the 3-point arc. It kind of seems to be not normal, but it's happened more than once. And we got to get a little bit better from behind the arc.
Well, one thing that I love seeing, looking at the stats here, Tennessee was 17 of 18 from the free throw line. So you only missed 1 free throw in the game, and that's where the ball game was won and lost because Vanderbilt only shot 6 free throws. Now, they hit 5 of them, But, that was a big difference in the game right there was Tennessee going to the foul line 18 times and making 17 of them. So, and the Lady Vols have struggled from the free throw line this year. So seeing that 17 of 18 number there, that's big.
It's probably a point of emphasis in the game, right? Probably something that Kelly Harper had them working on before that game. And another thing, honestly, is rebounds. I mean, we out rebounded them by 10, 35-25. So I think that helped us out on second chance points, whatnot, and kind of controlling the boards. Obviously, with basketball, boards is a big deal, offensively, defensively. Kind of feels like it's more of a big deal in offense because when you get those second chance points, almost more than 50%, it's probably going to be a bucket after that. The defense is already worn down. They probably already had to guard you for 20, 25 seconds. And now, if you get that offensive board, it probably hit the rim and you reset the clock, and now they got to guard you for another 30 seconds, So, big deal right there. Big win to kind of carry the momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking ahead, Tennessee does play again today. They're actually going to start here in about 8 minutes. They're playing they're playing at Ole Miss in Oxford. And then they turn around on Thursday, and they will be traveling to Athens to play against Georgia. So we will have 2 games this week from the Lady Vols. So it'd be a little bit more active this week. And also one thing that I just remembered, how fitting was it? Last Sunday's game was it was Pat Summitt's day. What do they call it up there? I can't remember. We back Pat. We back Pat as well.
Okay, I was like, is that what you're asking for? Yeah, all the jerseys had Summit on the back of them. It was really cool actually to see that.
Yeah, and not only that, but on We Back Pat Day, Kelly Harper gets her 100th win as the head coach at the University of Tennessee. So it was an awesome day for Tennessee.
No, it was a very big deal. They are now slotted solely at second in the SEC at 5-1 and 12-6 overall. Man, South Carolina is just on another level right now. 6-0, 18-0 overall. But Tennessee slotted right there, second place in the conference. It's been an up and down year. There's been some injuries though, but we finally are completely healthy. And I've got kind of a question of the day for you, type deal for the ladies' ball. I just want to see if you know this. I didn't. I had to look it up. Guess who the leader of field goal percentage is on the Lady Vols team? Probably won't guess it.
Field goal percentage?
Yes. Don't cheat.
I'm not cheating. I'm gonna go and guess probably Sarah Puckett.
Sarah Puckett?
Yeah.
Not a bad choice. What if I told you it's not even a starter?
I'm gonna guess it's probably Tamari Key then.
Tamari Key, 100%.
Which now that you say that kind of makes sense because she is strictly a post player. She's not one of these stretch forwards that's going to go out and knock down a three. She's going to play around the basket, and being closer to the basket like that, you're going to have higher percentage chances to make that shot. So I can see that there. I think,
and I feel like we've been using her more for defense more than anything. But man, if she could find her offensive rhythm, get more looks, or be a little bit more aggressive, man, she could be a full all around player.
Oh, absolutely.
What's going on, Jeff? Thank you for tuning in, my man. You, if you just now tuned in, you missed a really good interview. I highly suggest you go back and start from the beginning. We got to talk with Jay Hazze from Kentucky Religiously. Be sure to tune in and check that out. But
yeah, so real quick, just looking ahead at the schedule, how crazy is it that the Tennessee ladies and the Tennessee men are both playing like the biggest game of the season on the last game of the season? Because Tennessee ladies, they're playing at South Carolina to finish off the season this year, and then the men are playing at home against Kentucky in the final game of the season.
And it's really going to dictate seeding. Like, everybody's got Tennessee slotted kind of like the number 2 seed, the highest seeded SEC team. But man, if we have like a head scratching loss again, kind of like a Mississippi State loss against some other team, and then we lose 1 of 2 against Kentucky, I mean, we are at that point looking at a 3 seed probably. So very important to make sure that we keep on the winning ways and whatnot. But man, South Carolina is looking really good, and not that we just play those teams at the end of the season. You actually play South Carolina twice in the last 5 games, and you got LSU slotted right there in the middle. So you play South Carolina and LSU 3 of your final 5 games. Lady Vols are going to have it cut out for them in the last 2-3 weeks of the season.
Yep, absolutely. So let's move on. Good luck to the Lady Vols today against Ole Miss. I will definitely be tuning in, but let's head over to the men's side where Tennessee pulled out a 75-62 victory over Vanderbilt yesterday. I was in attendance for this game, but Skylar, I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
Well, my thoughts are the first half was like frustrating.
You're telling me, man.
Man, I tell you what, dude. Like it was like 6 minutes straight of no whistles. I was on the road going to Gatlinburg for a job that we got called in because, of course, right as soon as the game starts, we get a job. I'm not complaining. Love to help out the community, but it was very frustrating first half. But I want to I just want to ask you kind of like off record, like how was the game? Did you have a good time? How was the atmosphere? I heard it was like 90-10 Tennessee versus Vandy as far as atmosphere goes, which
oh yeah, it was.
How disrespectful is that? I mean, it's like that for every sport for Vanderbilt, except baseball, maybe.
Yeah, well, I went with my father-in-law and my brother-in-law to the game, and it was fantastic. It was actually my first Tennessee basketball game. I've never been to one before, hadn't had the opportunity to, and it was incredible. And we got to talking about it. You know, Vanderbilt really can't bring recruits to that game because all you're doing is just making it a kind of a how do you say it, like a endorsement to Tennessee, because I've got pictures on my phone and I've actually got a video that I posted to my TikTok. I just scanned around the stadium. It's literally 90% Tennessee to 10% Vanderbilt fans there. The whole Vanderbilt crowd was sitting in the bottom level across from me where the band was. So, I mean, it was crazy. The environment was awesome. I've also got a video of the starting lineups. Tennessee, when they called out their starters, it was just nothing but cheers. And then whenever Vanderbilt did their starting lineups, it was just kind of a slight roar from their fans. I was like, man, this is embarrassing for Vanderbilt.
It was crazy because after any big, like, there was an alley-oop dunk from Connect. There was a big dunk by Jonas Adu. And, like, the crowd just lost it. I'm like, dude, that's an away game. I'm like, what? Another
thing. Sorry to cut you off right here, but like on Twitter, Ben McKee commented on there, and I was at the game, so I remember this. Tennessee fans started singing Rocky Top right at a timeout, and Vanderbilt had to start playing music over the loudspeakers to try to drown out the Rocky Top that was going on.
Hey, Vol fans understood the assignment.
Absolutely, it was incredible.
Look, not to kick a dead horse, right? But let's be honest. Vanderbilt's a second home to us because that reaches out to our middle and west Tennessee fans, right? So anytime, and I think that's why and I hate it, but I think that's why you see the football team playing Nashville so much, is because it allows Heupel to, recruit all those kids. Speaking of Heupel, who was at the basketball game?
Josh Heupel was there.
Wonder why, dude. So it allows him to be able to go out there, recruit to those kids. It's easier for them to get to a game, and But no, it was a fun environment. I forgot. So you asked me on the way. I guess you were on the way to the game. I was like, "How you feeling about the game?" And you're like, "Man, I don't know. It's Vanderbilt." Like you kind of had that little son mentality, but you kind of had your doubts. It's basketball. I forgot all about the buzzer beater last year.
Yeah, I had forgotten about it too, and they showed it numerous times over the video board of that buzzer beater.
I told you over the phone, I'm like, dude, they're not losing to Vandy. But now that I realized that the buzzer beater, I knew that they weren't going to lose to Vandy. Like, even with the first half mishaps, whatever you want to call it, Rick Barnes and that team was thinking about last year and against Missouri, honestly, that like back-to-back scenario where they lost on a three-pointer very last second.
Absolutely. And real quick, while I got this comment up here, Jeff Mull says Stackhouse was so mad. I've also got a video out on Twitter. I was listening to the EA show on.
Do you have it on Twitter? If you can log in on Twitter, work on that behind the scenes and get it pulled up, and we'll show it on stream. So you work on that.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
While you're looking at, tell the story behind that. So you texted into the EA show.
I texted into the EA show. They've got a text box on there. And they have Chad and Jake from Rusty Wallace Key and Rusty Wallace Honda on there every Friday, and they do a pick segment. And there was a guy last year at the home game that was sitting behind the Vanderbilt bench, and he just kept going, "You're getting fired, Jerry. Jerry's getting fired." So they brought it up with the pick segment, and I texted in. I said, "Guys, I'm going to be at that game. If you guys want me to video myself yelling out, 'You're getting fired, Jerry,' I will do it." And they're like, "Yes, absolutely. Take a video and then tag us in it on Twitter." So let me see if I can get it here.
But look, that game against Vanderbilt wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, man. There was a point kind of midway through the second half. I'm like, man, Vanderbilt's fighting. I believe it was like 48-46 one point. I don't know. But then kind of after that, we went on a little tear, made them call a couple of timeouts, and then it really wasn't a game after that. But credit to Vanderbilt. I mean, I didn't even give them a chance. Uh-oh.
So here's the video.
There it is. Let's do it.
You're getting fired, Jerry!
There it is. There it is. He heard that too, by the way. Like, I don't want anybody thinking that nobody heard that. I promise you, he heard that. Jerry heard that probably from every fan. All 7 of them there in the arena from Vanderbilt fans.
Yeah, that was another thing. I've got a picture after we got into the arena, we started going up the steps to our seats. We looked out, and the line of people trying to get in, it was nothing but a sea of orange. There was no Vanderbilt fans. I texted you at one point, and I said, there is literally no Vanderbilt fans here. And then you sent something back, and then I said, update, I found a couple that's Vanderbilt fans. That's it.
Hey, look, we had our fun with Vanderbilt. All right. It was a big revenge game. Vanderbilt, look, I hate that they kind of fallen off this year, because if you remember last year, I think they won like 12 of the last 13 games. Like, they were rolling.
They made a run in the tournament as well, in the SEC tournament.
In the SEC tournament, but it's still, I don't know how, it wasn't enough to get in the tournament, and they felt like they got shafted from that. And honestly, I feel the same way. But this year,
a lot of it had to do with their non-conference early in the year. They really struggled.
Right. But at the end of the day, kind of like the playoff does, it's not really how a team starts the year. You know, it's how they're looking at the end of the year. I feel like should pretty much outweigh not to say that the first week of any season doesn't matter, because it does. But obviously you gotta look at the trajectory of a team. If a team started out 15-0 and then finished the season 20-10, 20-15, that same 20-15 team shouldn't be above another 20-15 team that started 5-15 and then won the final 15 games. Just throwing out numbers to try to make it make sense. But I agree with you. I think that ultimately kept them out of the tournament. And then who knows? I don't know if they just had a bad recruiting cycle, if maybe the portal wasn't so nice to them, but man, they've really fallen off this year. They're 0-6 in SEC play. They're 5-14 overall.
They do have some injuries this year. I'm not exactly sure who all has been injured, but I did hear that mentioned yesterday. Is Vanderbilt does have some injuries on the team, so I think that has played a factor as well. But let's go into the recap of the game yesterday. What are some of your thoughts on it?
It's hard not to talk about Connect first and foremost. I kind of thought that this would be a game where he took a step back, not necessarily because he had a bad game. It's just one of those things where, man, how can you shoot 30 points a game and keep doing it? And yeah, he proved me wrong. I think he had like 9 to 11 points in the first half, and then just took over in the second half. I mean,
he had 9 points in the first half.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to just look at what's happening. I watched the first half. I can at least attest to that. Very frustrating. I remember the announcers kind of saying, like, it's a quiet whistle. I think there was a point in the game where, like, they were running nonstop for a solid, like, 4 minutes of game clock. I mean, just back and forth down. And I'm like, I've never watched it. Me personally, not playing basketball, I like that because I hate when the whistle gets called like every possession, which it feels like it does. But I know as a player, when you don't get to sub out and you're just constantly running back and forth, dude, that sucks. And so that was a wacky time. It felt like we couldn't protect the paint in the first half, or it felt like we could, and then or we go into attack. I don't know. It was weird. I felt like the foul call on Zakai was a little weird, and then they called a technical on Rick Barnes. I kind of want your thoughts on that scenario alone.
Okay,
What was going through the crowd's mind? Like, what was going on? Like, TV only shows a fraction, right? So, like, what was Rick Barnes doing to get that technical called? And just give me the whole story.
Honestly, there was nothing that I saw. He was sitting there talking to the head referee. I'm not sure who it was yesterday, but he was sitting there just talking to him, discussing something, and the referee from over in front of Vanderbilt's bench calls the technical, goes over to the table, lets him know technical foul, Tennessee coach, and then runs back to the opposite end of the court away from Rick Barnes. And I'm like, what did he do? He wasn't even talking to him. So I never saw anything. And after that, Tennessee fans broke out into a big "Ref, you suck" chant. So
TV heard that. I promise you that.
I really don't know what exactly he did, but yeah, that first half especially, it was a lot of hard contact that wasn't called, and then a lot of light contact that was called. It was just inconsistent.
Very inconsistent. Very inconsistent. I got you, man. But what about Vescovi? Is he starting? Like I mentioned the last game, where he had like 8 points in the game against Alabama, but you could tell that he was starting to shoot the three confidently. And now he gets 12 points against Vanderbilt. Man, that would be a great addition to this offense, because Vescovi is one of our best defenders, right? Mm-hmm. But offense, he's kind of been slow this year. Is he starting to find his way, along with Jordan Gainey, by the way? He had a great game. I think he had 10 points as well. Is Vescovi is he getting back to OG Vescovi where we can rely on him behind the arc again?
I believe so. I think that, he's kind of gone through that feeling out process of trying to figure out what exactly his role is in the offense with Dalton Connect now. And now that he's starting to figure that out a little bit, I think that he's starting to get back in his groove. He's starting to finally feel it from downtown. And if it wasn't for him hitting a couple of those threes yesterday, because let's see what he had. He was 2 for 5 from the 3-point line. If it wasn't for those 2 threes that he hit, man, it probably would have gone a little bit different in that second half, because that kind of opened up a little bit. There was a couple of times that Vanderbilt tried going zone. It looked like a 1-3-1 zone, and Tennessee would move the ball around and find the open guy in the corner, and they hit those threes to take Vanderbilt out of that zone. And Vanderbilt just could not stay in front of the Tennessee players, no matter if it was Vescovi, if it was Connect, Ziegler. James was kind of hesitant. I'll get into James a little bit later. I've got some
I was going to ask you about James, but yeah, if you want to wait, we can wait.
I've got some thoughts on him, but bottom line, Vanderbilt it was a mismatch for Vanderbilt in this game, and Tennessee took advantage of it. Even in the first half, they took advantage of it. But one thing that Vanderbilt did well was they also took advantage. They were just going right downhill, and Tennessee's defense is based on, switching, helping, getting out to other defenders, and Tennessee was doing that a little bit too much, and the Vanderbilt guys were just going downhill, putting up shots, and, Memorial Magic, a lot of them were falling in that first half. So a credit to them. But Tennessee adjusted in the second half and started sticking with the guys all the way down, and when they tried facilitating, the guys weren't ready on Vanderbilt's end. So Tennessee did what they needed to, but yes, I think Vescovi's starting to come into his own, figuring out his role in his offense.
Heck yeah, that's what we like to see. That's what we need to see. One thing that kind of sticks out to me in this game is you didn't necessarily win the turnover margin as much as you'd like to think we would, considering how feisty our defense is, and yet we still found a way to still win by double digits. Usually because of the turnovers, we're able to get so many more opportunities on offense, and that's what leads to, a big win like that. But in this game, honestly, I think the turnovers were the exact same, 7-7.
Yeah.
So obviously we want to clean up our turnovers, but 7's not a terrible number. But it's shocking to me, I guess, is all I'm trying to say. I think we shot 50% from the field, which, I'll take that. I'll take that any game.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I didn't like was Tennessee did not shoot well from the free throw line, especially in the first half. I mean,
No, Dalton Connect.
Yeah, Connect was
didn't.
well. None of them.
He gets a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, I mean, he did have 32 points, but he was 3 of 7 from the free throw line. You also had Adu was 1 of 4.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And then Ziegler was the only other guy that missed a free throw because Gainey went 4 of 4, and then Vescovy went 4 of 4. Ziegler was 2 of 3 from the line. But, Adu and Connect was all in the first half, and it was just terrible. We were up there
weird
like
that our two top guys that I've been talking about are the worst free throw shooters this game.
And in the past 2 or 3 games, Connect has not missed a single free throw. He has been perfect.
17 in a row. 17 in a row. He broke his streak of 17 in a row to start that game. Yep.
Yeah. But, everywhere else, though, Tennessee won this ball game. Field goal percentage, Tennessee shot 49.1%, Vanderbilt 36.7%. 3-point line, Tennessee shot 40%, and Vanderbilt shot 30%. Out-rebounded Vanderbilt 38-31. Assist numbers 14-8 in Tennessee's favor. Steals, Vanderbilt did have 6 compared to Tennessee's 3. Tennessee had 5 blocks to Vanderbilt's 2. You mentioned the 7 turnovers apiece, but this is the key stat right here. Points off those turnovers, Tennessee had 13, Vanderbilt only had 4. So that's a big key. And then points in the paint, Tennessee had 32 to Vanderbilt's 24. So that was the big thing for me was the points off the turnovers. Tennessee won that battle.
Heck yeah, Tennessee now sitting second in the SEC at 5-1, half game back of Alabama.
Well, I'm actually going to correct you there because ESPN they just go off the record. But Tennessee actually has sole possession of first place because they've got the tiebreaker over Alabama in the standings because they beat them head to head.
I agree, but Alabama's played one more SEC game, so standing wise, they're still. I see what you're saying though.
Yeah, I'm just going based off of matchups where ESPN they're taking the record right there into consideration. So
no, but I agree with you. If we were to win our next SEC game. That way the games are even. Right now it's showing a half a game back. I was just about to say that. If we win our next game, it would look like we're tied, but we're technically in sole possession because we do have the head-to-head against Alabama in fantastic fashion. That's why I think it was good to see for Tennessee fans. It was good to see Auburn beat Alabama, right? Alabama beat Auburn. And then that's kind of set Auburn down on. I think they lost another one after that. So
yeah, they lost to Mississippi State yesterday.
They'll bite you. They will bite you. We know firsthand.
Yep, absolutely. But bringing up Josiah Jordan-James for a minute.
Yes, my bad. I'm sorry about that. We wanted to come back to that.
So he's still playing very well in the defensive end. He's doing his role there, and that's why Barnes keeps playing him as much as he is because of his leadership and then the way that he plays on defense. But offensively, he's just in a slump, and I could tell yesterday in the game that's gotten into his head. I was gonna say, let me look at the box score real quick. I think he only attempted 2 shots in the game. He attempted 2 shots. One of them was a 3, and he missed both of them. And another point in the game, he had a wide open layup going down, or he caught the ball in the corner and drove in, had a wide open layup and kicked it out to somebody else. So Tennessee did end up scoring on that possession, so it worked out. But you can tell that it's in his head, that slump that he is in, that he's not comfortable out there on the offensive end, and we really need him to step up going forward. I'm not asking for 15 points a game. No. But go out and give me a solid 8 to 10 points chipping in with Connect, with Adu, with Ziegler, with Vescovy. Give me that 8 to 10 points along with what you're doing elsewhere, getting 6 to 7 rebounds, 5 to 6 assists. Be that do-it-all guy that you were at the beginning of the year, because he's going to be a huge piece of this puzzle for Tennessee going down the stretch.
No, absolutely. And I was going to ask you about Triple J and the sole purpose of, does Coach put him out there knowing it's a defensive move? Because he's not contributing at all on offense. but he's getting rebounds. He's passing the ball, but he's only doing that because he knows he's not confident in himself to make the shot. And I guess my other question to you is, what's caused this uncomfortability from him? Like, I mean, I never felt like, I mean, I thought he was always his best when he was aggressive. Even if he misses a shot, you got to stay aggressive. I mean, that's part of basketball. But the belief in yourself to go make that shot is what's always carried him to be so successful in this league. And I know he didn't make the decision to come back to play like this. So, like, what's it going to take for him to start clicking again?
I think it's just kind of the same thing as Vescovi in a way. He's trying to find that role playing alongside Connect, because in previous years, Tennessee has had to have that go-to guy, and at times he has been that guy for Tennessee. Now he's not that guy, and it's almost like he's questioning, should I take this shot or should I give it to this guy who is our go-to? And as soon as you know this just from playing sports in general, it's not just basketball. As soon as you start getting in your head, that's it. I've got a guy I used to go to church with. He always said the entire game is 6 inches wide in between the ears. So I mean that's where the game is played, and that's where he is at right now. He's in his own head, and until he can figure out a way to get out of it, we're not going to see him have success on the offensive end.
And I'm wishing for it, praying for it, whatever's got to happen for him to get in the gym, get in the film room, whatever he's got to do to get his mind right to get back on track, because Tennessee is a better team when he's attributing on offense, because he is a great defender. And I do believe he should be getting the minutes that he's getting. But it's clear that he's not getting as many minutes as he used to, because at the end of the day, you only have 4 scorers on offense when he's out there.
Yeah. So I want you saying that right there. I want to bring this up. It's something that I heard earlier this week. Do you think maybe a player like Meshack or even Gainey, who has been contributing a little bit more on offense here lately, should get some of those minutes ahead of James because of their ability to contribute on offense? Because both of them are very good defenders and can do just as well as James on defense. So do you think that maybe they should be getting some of his minutes where he's not contributing on offense?
I'll take it a step further, Bubba.
Okay.
I think you bench Triple J a couple of games. Sometimes a player needs it. Like, almost like a reset. Like, I don't remember who it was.
It was Fulkerson.
Was it Fulkerson?
It was.
He just played so much better coming off the bench. I think Zakai Ziegler was like that when he first got here.
Yeah, Ziegler was too.
He was terrible as a starter. Well, not terrible, but he was not near as good to his full potential as a starter. But when he came off the bench, dude was like another player. I mean, he was like All-American. And so I think Triple J, I'm not saying take away minutes. I'm saying solely bench him to start the game. Let him come off the bench. That way, it's almost like, I don't know. It's just a different feel. And let's see if that works. If not, then at least we know we got somebody in there that's, like you said, it's not like you're taking a step back defensively. This is going to sound so heartless, Triple J, and I do not mean it that way. I'm just trying to figure out what's best for the team, what's best for him. And I think benching him to start the next few games, let him come off the bench, see if he's more comfortable that way. That way the game flow is already there, like he's not having to acclimate to it. But I think that's, if I was a basketball coach, but now I know nobody cares if I'm a basketball coach because I never played basketball, and that's fine. I did actually one year, but nobody cares. But that's what I would do. That's what I would do. If that's something you would do, or if you would just strictly take away some more minutes, I don't know.
Well, to your point there, I think that is definitely an option. When you first said bench him, I was thinking, dude, you're crazy. I mean, why would you bench him just because of how important he is? But no, you saying not start him, start somebody else and bring him off the bench. Yeah, give it a try. Because when I brought up the Fulkerson reference there, Fulkerson was a 6th-year senior. He had come back for his COVID year. He had just come off of that year where he was like SEC first team, I believe, or maybe he was second team, but he was Tennessee basketball. He was absolutely the leading guy on the team, and he was struggling. And Barnes just said, look, you're coming off the bench, man. We've got to have minutes from you that will matter. We got to have this production from you. and had him come off the bench, and that lit a fire under him. And Fulkerson, he started playing a lot better there towards the end. So I think you've got to try something, and I wouldn't put it past Barnes to do it because he's done it before. I mean, you mentioned Ziegler was better coming off the bench than he was starting. So I think absolutely that's something that you definitely consider.
Yeah, and I know with Ziegler it's a little bit different because I think he was like a freshman or sophomore when they were doing that. And Triple J is the 5th-year senior or 6th-year. I don't know.
He might be 6th year. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I know that's a little bit different of a reference, but overall it's the exact same concept. I'm not saying bench him as in like he needs to not play, period. I'm saying just start the game with somebody else, bring him on, and just see if it changes anything. And give him the exact same amount of minutes. I don't care. He's so valuable in defense that you play him 29, 32 minutes a game, like fine with me, whatever.
Yeah.
But Rick Barnes has always been defensive first. And that's
Absolutely.
why you've seen our teams be so dominant during the season and just unfortunately never make it in the tournament, because at the end of the day, the tournament's all about the team that's hot. So no matter how good your defense is, if the shots are falling, the shots are falling. And I think that's why we've not been able to make that type of run in the postseason. This year's a little different, man. I know we're not necessarily deep, but we're about 7, 8 guys strong. I mean, I know we played 10 people, but I'm saying strong. Like we could play 7 to 8 and still get 10 points out of any of them. And obviously you got a little bit of a kicker with Adu and Connect that are averaging, over 15, 20 points a game. This season just feels a little different. I know it's not that unbelievable undefeated type season. I mean, we've lost 4 games, but it just, to me, the feels a lot different this year.
Yeah, absolutely. But, talking about that depth there's one guy that I really want to see get a little bit more time because he played a fantastic game for the little amount that he was in. And I brought him up earlier. JP Estrella, man.
Estrella, man. Yes, sir.
He played 5 minutes in the game yesterday. He was 1-1 from the field. He had 2 offensive rebounds, a defensive rebound. He did have 1 foul out there, but the minutes that he was in there, it was just night and day difference of what he meant for Tennessee. And, talking about another player that has kind of struggled some this year, Tobe Awaka. I mean, I was expecting big things for him after the summer that he had playing for the Team USA, and it's just not been there. I'd like to see Estrella get a little bit of the minutes that Awaka was getting and kind of get more comfortable, because I mentioned earlier when we were on with Jay, I mean, after Adu, you don't have a big guy that you are comfortable putting in the game and staying at that level that you need to have success.
And that's what scares me about that Kentucky matchup. We'll get to it here in just a little bit. But, like, when Jay brought that up, and that's why I asked the question, because I was thinking in the back of my mind, man, like, if Connect gets fouled out or if Adu gets fouled out, we're in a little bit of trouble. Like, we're in a little bit of trouble. Like, let's just be honest as Tennessee fans, especially at Rupp Arena. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing a win whatsoever. I mean, anything we've learned this year is on the road in football and in basketball it's hard to do. I don't know what's changed the last few years, but man, it is so hard to win on the road lately. Atmospheres, maybe just college atmospheres in general. I mean, people want to talk about NIL hurting the sport, but you try to tell that to these atmospheres that we're going and playing in, because I tell you, brother, they're showing up, and it's hard to play in. And so, yeah, I agree with you on that one. But if you want to, if you got anything else, let's jump straight into the South Carolina matchup, dude.
Yep, absolutely. Let's get into the South Carolina matchup. We talking to Jay earlier, he mentioned just how physical South Carolina plays. And, I didn't mention it with him on, but I really think that that's where Kentucky might struggle in this game because of how young Kentucky is. They weren't able to cope with that physicality that South Carolina plays with. South Carolina, an experienced team just like Tennessee is, and Tennessee plays the same way. So I think that is one place where Tennessee could have some success in playing physical. But South Carolina and Tennessee, they are very, very similar when it comes to physicality, comes to defense first. And South Carolina's offense is starting to come around a little bit. Their leading scorer, Michi Johnson, he's averaging 15 a game, I believe it is. 15.7 points a game, 41.7 field goal percentage. So South Carolina is not going to be an easy task in this one. Luckily, Tennessee does get them in the Food City Center in Knoxville.
No, absolutely. And South Carolina, man, they're playing some good basketball as of late. They're on a 3-game winning streak. I think they've scored 70 plus in at least the last 5 games. I know one of that was a loss, but the last let's see here. Let me get the last 6 games, and 2 of those were losses, but they've scored 70 plus. So, I mean, I know that's not our defense, but if I was a bet man, I mean, I think they're going to get theirs. I mean, they may get 65, 70 points against us. It's just as long as we're scoring an offense the way I know we're capable of scoring, then I think it matchups okay. But one thing we've learned is, man, South Carolina will come up and surprise you a little bit, and they surprised Kentucky. And but South Carolina's a feisty team. Definitely not a pushover. I'm really afraid of the spot that this game's in. And the reason why I'll say that is because look at us. We were just talking about Kentucky. Not that we were overlooking South Carolina. It's just the way it worked out. We were able to collab with Religiously Kentucky, and thank you for that collaboration. But it just kind of feels like both fan bases for Kentucky, Tennessee, kind of looking ahead to that weekend matchup, not realizing that, you got a game coming up Tuesday. Now, I know the players know that. We're fans. We get to do whatever we want. But I just want to make sure as a team we're locked in, ready for South Carolina, because that's a big game. That's a big momentum builder, so that we can carry that over into Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking back at South Carolina's full schedule this year, they've only given up 70 points 4 times this year. And
their defense is stout, dude.
Yeah, and 3 of those were losses. So I'm going to say right here and now, 70 is the magic number. If Tennessee reaches 70, I think they win in this game. And that's going to be a tall task considering how good of a defense that South Carolina has. But at the same time, considering what kind of offense Tennessee has been playing with, especially at home, it's really not all that tall of a task, I don't think. I think Tennessee, if this game was in Columbia, South Carolina, as it will be later this year, because they do play again, actually next to last game of the year, I think that could be a different story. But I think that Tennessee is going to get the win on a Tuesday night, or is it Wednesday night?
It's Tuesday night, I believe. It's the 30th. Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Okay, so I think that's going to be the biggest difference in the game is just the fact that Tennessee is playing it at home.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with you. I think Tennessee needs the win. They got to keep the momentum rolling. I mean, they're sitting there teetering, thanks to some help outside the conference. They're teetering on a 1 seed. They got to keep it up. They got to keep it up. I think realistically, 2, 3. I mean, I'd hope for a 2 seed at the worst, but taking off the orange glasses, 2 to 3 seed. But if we can keep this winning train going, not let a game like Mississippi State happen, man, we're teetering on that number 1 seed. And to get there a game closer, we got to knock off South Carolina. And I think this may sound weird, but I think seeing South Carolina surprise some of the teams helps get our team mentalities right. And knowing that, hey, this is not a slouch team. I mean, they're 3rd in the SEC. They got a 17-3 record. Like, you got to come up and bring your A game. And having this game home is massive. Having TBA, Food City Center, having that thing rocking on a midweek is something that we're going to need. So Vol Nation, show up, do your thing, and let's knock off the Gamecocks. Do it for the football team. But yeah, man, let's move right along to the matchup that we want to talk about, right?
Yep.
And that's Kentucky, whatever you want to call them. Little brother. Hey,
in
look,
football anyway.
Shoot. Maybe.
Let's get into that for a second, because I never did bring this up with Jay. We had a lot of other stuff that we wanted to talk to him about, but overall, this series here, Kentucky has owned it. I mean, Kentucky has been good for a long time. They have 160 wins compared to Tennessee's 77 wins in the series. But Tennessee has also won more games against Kentucky than any other team in the nation, just because of Tennessee and Kentucky playing twice every single year at least. And here lately, they've played numerous times in SEC tournaments.
You almost guarantee 3 games. I was going to say you got 2 in the regular season, and you almost lately guarantee seeing them at some point in the SEC championship tournament.
Yeah, and then the last 10 matchups between these two teams, 5-5. Both teams have won 5 games.
Yeah, it's become it's a renewed rivalry. I mean, it's good to see for the sport, for the SEC, for the border rivalry, right? But Kentucky does own the record overall, but that's also like trying to compare the Lady Vols record over another team being dramatically different, but you're taking into account of the great Pat Summit years. I mean, Kentucky's had some great coaches in the past, including Coach Cal. And Kentucky's always been kind of a dominant basketball school. I mean, that's why you've seen the coaches at Kentucky kind of butt heads a little bit in the offseason last year or year before last when Coach Cal came out and just straight up said, like, we're a basketball school. And not that he's wrong. He's not wrong. But, I just felt like football coach Stoops, he felt a little disrespected because he has done some great things out there. But I think it's pretty clear that he's got a ceiling out there at Kentucky for the football program. So whereas Coach Cal, I mean, he's the standard, however you like it or not, he is. And that's why Jay even mentioned it, teams want to beat Kentucky just like they want to beat Tennessee. But what he's trying to say there is any team that's holding the number 1 in the SEC or in the nation, I mean, obviously every team wants to beat them because then they can say they beat the best. And so I respect it. But I think this matchup is all you could ask for in the middle of a SEC. Excuse me, in the middle of the SEC slate. I mean, both teams are relatively healthy. You're gonna get your best on your best, and like I said, man, this game is such a swing game. For both teams, win or lose, it could really dictate seeding in the championship or in the March Madness bracket. It's got a lot riding on it, and it's a big game for the SEC.
Yeah, and one thing that I do like about this game is, I mentioned Tennessee and Kentucky, they're 5-5 in the last 10 games. Do you know what Rick Barnes' record is against Kentucky since he got to Tennessee?
At least tell me how many years Rick Barnes has been here.
Rick Barnes has been here since the 2015-2016 season.
And they play Kentucky twice a year, so 8 times 2, 16. It's not 8-8, is it?
No, it's not 8-8. But you're close. It is 10-9 against Kentucky.
I was forgetting postseason play. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. He's 10-9.
He's got a winning record.
Yeah, he's got a winning record against Kentucky, which is good. And then looking back, the number of times that he has won in Lexington since he got here. Let's see. He has won 1, 2, 3. He's won 3 times in Lexington. So he's got a history of going into Lexington with teams and coming out with victories. But
and that's hard. Going into Rupp, that's hard. And,
I mean, it's hard at any road arena, but especially Rupp, the history and the passion of Kentucky fans. It's really hard to go up there. And just looking at this game, Jay said as a Kentucky fan, he's not going to predict a loss. I'm going to go into this like I have in football season before. I believe that Tennessee does drop this game solely because it is in Rupp Arena. I think that's going to play a big factor, but I'm going to go down the road and I'm going to predict a win in Food City Center whenever Tennessee plays there. I just think that going on the road, especially against a team like Kentucky, the game is prime time on ESPN. I think that it's going to be a very close game, but Kentucky pulls out a close one.
I can see that. And in fact, I like the 1-1 pick there. I was probably going to do the same thing, but I was thinking about flipping it. What if we get that big win on the road, but then lose like that heartbreaker at home to end the season?
Which has happened numerous times in the Kentucky-Tennessee rivalry.
Yeah, I could see that. That just feels like the most Tennessee thing ever. Like especially that game like hinges on a 1 or a 2 seed. and then we lose and we're a 2 seed. I could see that every year. Just as a Tennessee fan, BVS is a real thing. And so I'm going to predict the 1-1, but I'm going to say let's get the win on the road. Get that big win, have the media talking their talk or whatever. And then like you said, I'm going to go ahead and predict. I hate doing that because like Jay said, he doesn't predict losses, but I do try to be real on the show, man. I think we go 1-1 and we split the road games and maybe go against the narrative that the road team always loses.
Yeah, and that's fair. That could easily happen. I'm just going to go with, the home teams there. I'm going to go with the split there where Kentucky wins at home, Tennessee wins at home. So, I mean, either one of these could happen. We could see one of these teams go 2-0. I would love for it to be Tennessee, but, stranger things have happened where, let's just say Kentucky goes 2-0 in the regular season against Tennessee. Tennessee could sneak in the SEC tournament and knock them off in that third game. Vice versa, Tennessee could win 2 in the regular season. Kentucky could come in and get that third one in the SEC tournament.
I was going to ask you, since we're on that topic, is it excusable if you go 0-2 against Kentucky, but then beat them in the championship, in the SEC tournament?
Absolutely. Because, as a college basketball fan and not just a Tennessee fan, I think that is
championships matter, and that's
yes, the championships matter, and we talk about the team that gets hot at the right time. Lose the games in the regular season. Yes, they matter because you've got to get into the tournament to start with. But Tennessee at this point, I think they could lose the rest of the games on their schedule and still make the tournament just because of how tough their non-conference was and how they played those games. Now, Tennessee is not going to do that. I already know that. But it is going to be a tough stretch down the road. But if Tennessee was to lose twice to Kentucky in the regular season, but then knock them off in the tournament, and that starts the ball to rolling for the big NCAA tournament, I'm okay with that. Fair
enough. Well, I think I agree with you on that because what I don't want is to go 2-0 against them and then lose in the tournament.
Yeah,
that would suck. But I also don't want to lose the rest of the game. So let's not even talk like that, dude. But no, man. Do you have anything else before we wrap up the show, man? It's about an hour and a half long show. Big show today. Had our man Jay Hazze with Religiously Kentucky in the first segment, and then we've talked Lady Vols, men's basketball. Big things coming up. We've got not really so much portal news this week. Everything's kind of been steady. We obviously got the big 5-star Lance Hurd and also George McIntyre, which we've already talked about, I believe. But you got anything else before we wrap up this show, man?
I don't believe so. It's been a good show today. Looking forward to a full slate this week of Tennessee basketball.
Yeah.
And not having to go from Sunday to Saturday without it was very tough. Actually, one more thing that I want to bring up, I mentioned Tennessee, Kentucky is on primetime ESPN next weekend. Have you seen the slate for ESPN ball games next week?
I have not. I don't even know where to look at that.
It is Houston against Kansas, followed by Duke, Kentucky, followed by Tennessee. I'm sorry, Duke, North Carolina, and then followed by Tennessee, Kentucky.
That's a good triple header right there.
Yeah, that's one of those where you put your comfy clothes on, you sit down on the couch, you got your popcorn, you got your food, you got whatever you got, and you're sitting there.
That is me every fall Saturday when I'm down in Neyland, bro. I've got 3 screens up watching football from 11 Eastern till like literally 11 at night. I mean, that is me right there, man. Well, one thing I do want to say before we jump off is, man, what a great show this has been today. We hit 11 likes on the live on YouTube just during the live. That is by far our record. I think our previous record was like 5. So we shattered that. I know that's not big numbers, but we're not a huge show yet. We're still trying to get out there. And to have 11 folks like us while we were still live on the show is amazing. We appreciate you guys. I think we gained a few subscribers as well. So we really do appreciate you guys for tuning in, listening, whether it's here on YouTube. I think we'll upload it probably at some point to Spotify, Apple Podcast. We'll have some clips on Instagram, TikToks, anywhere, honestly, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. So,
yeah, and a shout out to Eric from the Ohio podcast. As soon as we went live and we started talking to Jay, he got on to the Twitter group that we have. It was like, hey guys, go on and check out two of our guys collaborating, talking some basketball, give them a like. So Eric, shout out to you for getting some people on here watching us. You've been putting in a lot of work behind the scenes, behind stuff that we've got going on, and being able to tune in to basically all of our videos as well. And not just ours, but everybody in this group. Man,
the time and the dedication that takes is insane.
Absolutely. Thank you for all that you do, man. It does not go unnoticed. Trust me.
Absolutely. And lastly, I'm going to show you guys once again, because I'm super proud of it, is we do have an official merch shop. So y'all guys be sure to check it out. I have ordered some things for myself personally, and I've came across an issue where it may put your items on hold, and I figured out why that was. So some of these items are embroidered, and the embroidery, the patches, the font and the graphic is too small for certain threads. So they actually helped me create a new logo that just doesn't say the Vol Fanatic Show with Michael and Skylar on it. They just have our main logo. And I did approve that as of last night. So if you guys try to order something, it's on hold. That is getting corrected. You may have to email them back through the support, but that's getting fixed, and hopefully we won't run into that issue again. And again, that's only for the embroidered things. I think if you order something that had a print on it, like I ordered the phone case, that should all be good to go. But this right here, man, I'm very proud of it. Spent quite a bit of time trying to figure all this stuff out, get it up on the channel. But pricing, man, we try to make it as fair as possible. Me and Michael, we really only make like $1 or $2 on profit by the time we split it. So these things, we try to put the pricing at a very minimum, because at the end of the day, we just want to get our name out there, and we hope that you guys support it. So we really do appreciate you for tuning in.
Yeah, and some of those items that Skylar is talking about there, from somebody that has worked at a print shop before, the stuff that'll have to be embroidered, the hats, the backpacks, stuff like that would have to be embroidered. So some of those items are the ones you need to check on. The hoodies, the t-shirts, the phone case, the water bottles, they should be good to go with the logo, because they're not embroidered. But Skylar, appreciate all the work that you put in on that store as well. So.
No, man, I appreciate all the work that you put into making this stream happen. Of course, we've got some things that are changing. You see now we got a background. We were able to add some guests to the channel, man. We've been investing a lot of time, a little bit of money trying to make this happen, but it's what we love to do. We love to have fun. We love to talk ball, brother. And that's what we're all about here at the Vol Fanatic Show.
Yep. And before we let out, you guys see the ticker going across the top of the screen. We don't do as good of a job as we should, trying to get our socials out there. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We don't have a Vol Fanatic TikTok, but both of us, we have our personal TikToks. I will actually put those on the screen real quick. So Skylar, that is his TikTok right there, Vol Fanatic 343. And then mine is Michael 802. Next week, we'll probably have those on the screen the whole time, probably make it a little bit smaller, put below our name. But with Jay coming on, I didn't want to have those on the screen there with us. But those are our TikToks. Like I said, socials are on the top. We appreciate all of you tuning in today. We appreciate all the likes that we've gotten. And guys, we will see you next week. Enjoy some Vol basketball this week.
Vol Nation, y'all better show up.